Hello, I'm Cheryl Hawkins. Welcome to Solutions, the show that highlights the incredible work that nonprofits do to overcome challenges in our communities. On this very special edition of Solutions, we're looking at the power of children's theater. And there is no more powerful theater for children than Imagination Stage right here in Montgomery County, Maryland. Founded by Bonnie Fogel, Imagination Stage, one of the top theaters for young audiences in the United States, was created in 1979. It's been in operation for over 40 years, and to date, Imagination Stage has reached over 1.5 million youth. Recently, Bonnie stepped down from day-to-day operations at the theater to fulfill one of her goals, to write a book about her 40-year experience of growing Imagination Stage. Co-written with Brett Ashley Crawford, the book, Entrepreneurial Arts and Cultural Leadership, Traits of Success in Nonprofit Theater, is a tactical guide for nonprofit arts leaders, revealing the entrepreneurial traits that turn creative passion into sustainable success. I am so honored to have Bonnie Fogel in studio with me today to talk about her life work at Imagination Stage and her new book. Bonnie, welcome to Solutions.
Thank you, Cheryl.
I am so happy to have you here. You don't even know that you've been a shero of mine for many years. I never met you, but I knew about BAPA at the time. When I first learned about it, because I had a young son who was interested in theater. He just came out of the blue, and I was looking around for places, but we were in Alexandria, so it wasn't something I could easily do. So I applaud you for what you've done in children's theater for all these years.
Thank you.
So I want to start by talking about why you founded the theater. Actually started as an aftercare program. Tell me about those beginnings.
We started in 1979, as you said, as Bethesda Academy of Performing Arts. And we started because, you may be able to tell, I'm British, and I was raised in a country that really values the arts. The arts are an important part of the education programming during the school day, and lots of programming after school. Also a lot of programming at the time I was growing up in the local community. So every village hall had their drama company or their little music ensemble or whatever. We entertained ourselves in that manner. And when I came to this country, I was married and I had 2 children, lived in Montgomery County. My children went to arguably one of the best elementary schools in the country. And I looked around and I thought, wow, you know, everything they are going to need in life, they're going to get here. And then I took a second look and I said, but there's no arts programming. There was a visual arts class, and the teacher pushed a trolley into the classroom, you know, like a little teacot, and had her supplies on that. And that was about it. And then the first year I was there, the teachers said, we can't do our annual talent show this year because there's nobody to run it. And a girlfriend and I said, well, we'll do that, you know, why not? Now, she was an actor, she was professional, I knew nothing, but I wanted this for my kids, right? And so we put on the talent show, and almost all of the 300 children in that school wanted in the talent show, and we managed to make that possible. And then we looked at each other and said, you know, we really do need this.
Wow.
Yeah, we need this on a consistent basis, and that's how it started.
So many would say that you created the organization to teach young people to act and dance and sing, but your website states that Imagination Stage has been about more than teaching young people to act, dance, and sing. Share with us what it's meant to you.
It was never about teaching young people to be professional entertainers or legitimate actors or whatever. It was always about building a sense of empowerment that a child gets from continued regular access to theater and the other performing arts, because we know that for many young people, and I was one of those young people, access to success academically is not assured. It might be that you don't speak the language. It's not your first language. It might be that, like me, you've moved house too many times to have a comprehensive education. It might be that you just have a brain that works slower, a cognition that's slower, other limiting things. But the arts empower everyone. They empower everyone in the same way. And so that was what we were always striving for, and still do. That is the mission of the organization.
So talk about that a little bit more. Your website also says that Imagination Stage is a holistic theater arts organization for all children and youth.
Yes.
Holistic, what do you mean?
So meaning all body experience. So several years ago we came upon the philosophy theory of Howard Gardner, theory of multiple intelligences. And he said that we all learn differently. I learn by writing. You may learn by talking, by narration, by social interaction. Mm-hmm. Someone else can only really learn if they are kinesthetically involved. They're moving. Think of soccer players, mm-hmm. you know, athletes. And someone else learns by painting. So this is their preferred method of processing information. Therefore, years ago, we determined that our classes would always try to speak to every avenue of learning for young people. So you might be teaching, might be doing a play, but with the young children, they'll be painting their own scenery. They'll be making their own costumes. They'll be designing perhaps their own choreography. So everybody's intelligence, their preferred method of processing information is going to have an opportunity to be channeled. And we've seen that be so useful when we've been doing residence, for instance, residencies, and children who didn't know they had any theater talent, didn't want to be on stage, but they were empowered by being given some percussion instruments or being asked to paint something. And that's all part of theater. I mean, theater is informed by all these disciplines, you know?
Yeah. Now, you started out in the very beginning as a nonprofit, and I was wondering why, but I know why because I run one too, but a lot of people would ask why. It's so hard sometimes to run a nonprofit.
Well, I would say that any business is hard to run. We didn't go into it, we weren't motivated. When I say we, I had a partner back in the early days who's been gone for about 25 years now, but she was the initial founding partner with me. We weren't in it to make money. Any money we got was plowed immediately back into the business for the marketing or the costumes or whatever it was we needed. We did it because it was something that was in our heart that we wanted to share with our community. And wasn't being provided by the government, by the school system, by whatever. So that's the difference. A nonprofit is mission-driven. It is not profit-driven. But it's still a business.
Right. Yes, it is.
Yes.
With all the needs of a business.
Yeah.
So you said you brought on an artistic director to work with you, and you handled the operations side of things.
Yes.
Yeah. How difficult did you find that to be, handling the operations, finding the money, finding spaces, finding people?
Right. We're talking about a 40-year arc. In the beginning, no problem at all. There were just the two of us. There was no money to pay anyone.
Right.
So, you know, but that, when you're running a nonprofit business, building your resources, if you're on the administrative side, is the most important thing you do. And it's the most difficult thing you do because the resources is everyone. And by resources, I mean the people.
Yes.
You've got to have the right people working with you on your staff or in your faculty or on your stages. You've got to have the right board members. And I'm a huge advocate for building boards that are resources to a nonprofit. And then, of course, you've got to have the other resources. If you grow big enough, you've got to have a building. I mean, you know, that is an extraordinary leap for a nonprofit to make, from being in rented facilities to then owning and operating a building. And then you've got to have the money.
Yeah. Talk about the building where you are now. Was that a reason for the name change, moving into this new space that was so much larger?
The building we're in now, which we call our forever home,
yes.
We've been there 23 years. I still refer to it as the new building, but of course it is not new. Originally we were in a former elementary school in Bethesda, and then we had our education programs there, and then Kate Breyer, one of our faculty, said she wanted to start a professional theater, but it shouldn't be in the same location because audiences would get confused. Was this a student show, which is what we were doing in that location? So we went to White Flint and talked to the management there. They had at that time a lot of stores that weren't being used because there was a recession. Could we use one of those stores and start a theater there? I had seen that in Kansas City when I had been visiting there, so I thought it might work at White Flint. And they said yes, and that was the beginning of the professional theater. But we needed a different word, it couldn't be Bethesda Academy of Performing Arts. Doesn't sound like a professional theater. So, you know, brainstorming with very smart board members and Imagination Stage, which of course means two things, because children are in their imagination stage, and it's also a stage for the imagination, you know. So, and so when we went from the two facilities into the forever home, we took the name of the professional theater because it seemed to be more appropriate for this new stage in our journey.
Yes, and the space is the bottom levels of a parking garage. It seems to me it would have taken a lot of imagination to visualize what that could be.
And this is where your board comes in, because we were looking everywhere for a forever home, and we were looking at all the church basements, and I was saying, we don't need a basement, we need the whole thing. A basement is not big enough. And we couldn't find anything. And one of our board members was very associated with Bethesda and the Bethesda Urban Partnership and the Bethesda Chamber of Commerce, and he said, I hear they're building a garage and they've got some ground floor space and they want to put in a nonprofit that's going to draw people to Bethesda. They don't want just another ugly garage. I say we go for that. And so we did. But that idea might not have occurred to me or anyone on staff because we're still working at a very modest level. So this is why you need your board members. You need people who are out in the world, who can see what's going on, who bring a different context, who bring a lot of business assurance, yes, we can do that, and are prepared to stand by you and help you take that big step.
And that was a huge step.
It was enormous step.
Yeah.
We went from a business whose budget was $750,000 a year, after 20 years of being in business, to a business that leaped to $4.5 million almost overnight.
Wow.
And it was an unbelievable hurdle, stress, trauma. And again, it was the board members who said, this is how we're going to do this. This is how we're going to make payments on all these new things. This is what we're going to do. And then the resources that we built through the years who said, yes, and now we're going to give you more money because you need more money. And the faculty that said, yes, and we're going to work harder and think bigger and, you know, make this the most wonderful place. Everything has to come together for you. And
it came together in a big way. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, I'll talk with Bonnie about her book, Entrepreneurial Arts and Cultural Leadership, and what the future looks like for Imagination Stage and for her. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Staff and artists at Imagination Stage are always motivated by our educational mission. And after seeing the setbacks of the pandemic for young people, both educationally and emotionally, we see that the needs of now require more than ever an applied arts curriculum.
The ability to manage personal emotions and to recognize them in others, known as emotional intelligence, is a predictor of academic and professional success. So a recent study of children and youth in theater classes by our lab at George Mason University in partnership with the Commonwealth Theater Center followed children aged 5 to 18 over the course of 6 years. It was the longest look at theater's impact to date. We found increases in communication skills across age, gender, and race. And the longer kids spent in the classes, the more they gained in communication, creativity, imagination, problem solving, and collaboration.
To help create that opportunity for young people, community, and families is critical. And in the times that we're living in right now, not just in this region, around this country, cultural arts is the most important piece. There's a lot of good work in positive youth development, a lot of good work in mental health going on right now, but I'm telling you, it's the cultural work in the arts, the imagination stage provides that's going to be critical as we support young people.
Welcome back to Solutions. I'm here in studio with Bonnie Fogel, the founder of Imagination Stage and the author, along with Brett Ashley Crawford of the new book, Entrepreneurial Arts and Cultural Leadership, Traits of Success in Nonprofit Theater. So I want to talk about your book. This book is a gift to nonprofit leaders, not just in children's theater, but any nonprofit. It's a gift. I have to say that because I run a nonprofit, and so many things in the book that I've been reading was like, oh, that's what you should do. So the book, your book focuses on real-world strategies to developing the entrepreneurial mindset necessary for leading and sustaining a nonprofit arts organization. Tell me why you decided it's time to write this book.
Well, I wanted to leave the story, I wanted to archive somehow the story of Imagination Stage. And so originally I had thought, I'll just do a comprehensive account of the journey. It's the simplest thing to do. And then my dearly beloved son said, well, that's nice, but who's going to read it? And I thought, well, you know, probably 5 of my best friends will read it. But it made me think that he was absolutely right. It needed to be more contextual, more comprehensive. It needed to not just tell the story, but explain what made Imagination Stage successful. Because 90% probably of nonprofits that start don't go more than 10 or 15 years. And of the ones that have buildings, then that drops another 40% because maintaining a building on top of everything else. So, you know, I started to think deeply about it. And at the same time, I was reminded of a conversation I had had with Brett Ashley Crawford, who was the managing director at Imagination Stage for a while, and then went to Carnegie Mellon to teach arts management there. And she had told me several times that there were no books that she could use in any of her classes that really told you how to do it. There were lots of books by academics and intellectuals that told you how to do it or told you the theory of nonprofit management, but nobody that said, this is how we actually do it.
Right.
And she said, and my students laugh at me because they say, for every time you mention Imagination Stage, we're putting another check on the wall, or I think they were having a shot or something, we won't go there. But anyway, so she said, so I said, well, I called her up and I said, would you like to write this book with me? And she said, oh yes, absolutely. So we did. And so that was the genesis of it.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing is that Imagination Stage is the case study.
Yes, it's theory into practice.
Yes.
She presents the theory, and Lord knows she knows it. And then I present, and this is how we did it in actual tactical terms, and how you can do it.
Yes. And you say in your book is centered around 6 core traits that you say are necessary to have?
Which are inform on entrepreneurial leadership
Yes.
style.
Yes.
And the reason for the use of that word is that many people run nonprofits by managing the day-to-day. I'm talking about leadership.
Yeah.
What is the difference between a manager and a leader? A
Yeah.
leader is very aware of what's happening in the community, what the cultural trends are, the demographic trends, what are the historical trends, what are the political trends, what is happening in the world, not just in Montgomery County, in the country, in the world. And so that's the difference. And an entrepreneurial leader, and again, whether it's in small business or any size of business or a nonprofit business, is somebody who encompasses all those ways of thinking and brings it back to their own business and says, I've heard this is happening. What do we think about that?
Right, and the arts and culture industry is a huge business.
Absolutely.
It's $100+ billion business.
Yeah.
So you really do need to have some guidance in how to maneuver and benefit from
Sure.
all, this huge business.
Yeah.
So very quickly, I'd like to see if you could just summarize 5 of the traits that you speak about in the book. I'll share what they are, and then let's talk a little bit more about that 6th trait that I found so interesting. So the first one is the vision thing, the entrepreneurial leadership imperative trait.
Right, and the vision is going to come from what it is you want to do for your community.
Right.
Your children in the community, in our case, what you want to offer. What is that?
Yeah.
And for us, it was offering an opportunity to engage their whole selves, whosoever they were, where they came from, and in an empowering experience through the arts.
Right.
Arts education, arts performance, arts aesthetic, that kind of approach.
And the second, it's all about the people, staff and board.
And we talked about that a little bit. You've got to get the right people on the bus with you, and you've got to get some of the people off the bus sometimes too.
Right.
And that's even harder than bringing the right people on. But
Yes.
you need to know, you need to be aware of it, and you need to do it.
Yes, and trait 3, igniting and engaging entrepreneurial leadership and the board.
Yeah.
Getting their buy-in.
And again, I mentioned that the board is a huge priority for me, and we have a pipeline that we refer to. It's like a personal pipeline. You're looking for someone to share your life with you.
Yeah.
You look around the community, so you're prospecting, then you're going on dates, then you're making a proposal,
Right.
then you're getting married, then you're living happily ever after. Or maybe you're not, and then maybe there's a divorce. So we go through all these stages, but it all speaks to engaging people on your board.
And trait 4, making the difference, partnerships and community.
Yeah. And the partnerships are huge because in everything we do, we will do so much better if we partner. Look at Imagination Stage. We partnered with Montgomery County government. We got a forever home.
Right,
That's
how about
extraordinary. In a garage, embedded in a 400, 600 car garage. That's an ultimate example of a partnership that comes from years of collaborating with
Yes.
government, keeping your ear to the ground, looking for opportunities.
And
Yeah.
trait 5, the power of your voice and advocacy.
Right. And advocacy is incredibly important. It's as important as development and as marketing, because you've always got to be letting your community know who you are and what you do and why what you're doing is so critically important to the community, so that not only do they know, but when you've got a real issue, like you've got to raise $14 million to build a building, they say, yes, we know about you, we believe in you, and we're going to help you.
Yes.
And that happens.
Yes, very important. And this 6th trait, I'd like to talk a little bit more about it, which is the entrepreneurial balance, risk versus opportunity, which you say are often the building blocks or key cornerstones of what become transformational moments to an organization.
Yeah.
Talk about that. You have to take some risks.
Right. If you don't take risks, you're not going to have a thriving, inspirational organization. To take no risks at all, whatever kind of business you're in, is the kiss of death. And you have to always think about an opportunity as also being a risk, and a risk as always being an opportunity. Those things go together. And then so it's the balance of the thing. How do you figure out ultimately which to go with? And there are tools, which we have in the book.
Yeah, the SWOT.
The SWOT tools, that's there.
Strengths, weaknesses,
opportunities and threats, and you balance those up. It's sometimes at the end of the day, it does come down to a gut feeling, or a gut, I absolutely have to go through with this because I know how important it is to the community. And even if it fails, I'm not going to not try it.
Yeah.
Because I believe so passionately in it myself.
You write that risk is a mindset and failure is a lesson and not a stop.
Absolutely. And I don't think that that's new with us. An entrepreneur is a risk taker. Anybody in theater is an entrepreneur, basically, because every time you put on a play, it's a risk. Are people going to come and see it? Will they like it? Will it cost too much? All those things. It will, and every time the curtain goes up, symbolically or not, you're putting yourself out there. So people in the arts are inherent risk takers. That is part of our genetic makeup. So we're ready for it, but we mustn't be afraid.
And you have taken lots of risks. And
yes, and the big risks, as you were suggesting, always led to the next evolution of the business. The big risk to start working with young people with access and inclusion needs really changed the whole way our education program is offered, because that's when we learned about multiple intelligences and how you empower every kind of child through theater. The risk to go into a shopping mall and start a professional theater for children led to the Forever Home and the identification as Imagination Stage as one of the top theaters, professional theaters for young adults in the country and possibly in the world. That was a huge risk, but look at the opportunity that it engendered.
Yes. You had great success in getting the Forever Home with that risk. There were other opportunities that didn't pan out so well. You wanted to be in D.C.
We are in D.C., but we wanted something huge in D.C., which has not yet happened. And there were a couple of hiccups, things that looked like they were going to be huge. Both involved a home of our own in D.C. and not shared space. And they were huge, and we took huge risks. We were careful to protect ourselves financially in both of those opportunities. What it did for us was it established us in D.C. Every politician in D.C. knew what we were doing. The mayor knew what we were doing. The heads of the agencies knew what we were doing. Because when we were trying to do it, we were going and meeting with every single one of them and saying, this is what we're doing. We need you to know. And we're going to ask for your help at some point, but we're doing this. So, you know, it helped us get into D.C., even though it didn't pan out. And it still will. We've been in D.C. for 10 years now. It's a very important part of the overall business model.
And why was it so important for you to be in D.C. when you had this beautiful space here?
Because we want to take the arts to where the children are. And for some kids coming from D.C. in buses to come to Imagination Stage, they'd be asleep by the time they got to us. You know, I mean, a long bus ride, you know, and so it just made sense that we should be there. And also made financial sense. There are grants in D.C. for work in D.C., and there aren't those similar grants in Maryland for work in D.C. So it's a business decision too. It's not all about, you know, it's led by the wanting to do the best for the community, but it's also thoughtful in terms of are there resources there that will help support us.
Right. We're really out of time, but I have to ask, what's next for you?
Well, as I told my kids, less.
How about
But
that?
good things.
Very good.
Less.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what those are because I know whatever it is, it's going to be great coming from you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being
You're
here,
so
Bonnie.
welcome.
I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank my guest, Bonnie Fogel, founder and former longtime executive director of Imagination Stage and author of Entrepreneurial Arts and Cultural Leadership, for being my guest on this very special edition of Solutions. Her leadership and success at Imagination Stage is renowned, and her new book, Entrepreneurial Arts and Cultural Leadership, which offers arts managers, educators, and nonprofit leaders a roadmap for resilience and growth, is priceless. If you'd like more information about productions, classes, and other community events being offered at Imagination Stage, you can visit their website at imaginationstage.org or email them at info@imaginationstage.org, or you can call them at 301-280-1660. And if you're interested in the book, Entrepreneurial Arts and Cultural Leadership by Bonnie Fogel and Brett Ashley Crawford, you can find it at your favorite online book retailer. I'm Cheryl Hawkins. Thanks for watching, and see you next time for more Solutions.